Grozny, or Ivan the Terrible, right, was terrible. And by the way, this is a medievalish kind of thing as well. No, not that one. This one. So that is the hair shirt that Ivan Grozny wore. It's made out of very coarse fibers to bother the heck out of you. Right? It's self-torture, right? You wear stuff that hurts your skin, because you're trying to control your body. The body keeps having these evil desires, and what do? Well, you keep beating up the body. So, no fun for you. Yes.
Get rashes from that?
I imagine so. Or worse. There's a scene in the movie, it was a German-made movie about Hildegard von Bingen.
Did they not have therapists back then?
The monks were the ones trying to tell you to beat the crap out of your own body. So that wasn't really help. It wasn't. Therapy means care of the self, and that didn't get invented until maybe Freud. I don't know. Who's psychology majors? Have psychology majors? Who's guilty of inventing?
Guilty?
I don't know if Freud. Yeah, I guess one Freud probably did it, but I don't know if therapy is as a concept is something that started.
I assume it's like.
Supposedly it was made in the 9th century.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah,
okay. So that would have been concurrent with all of this, but probably those were sinful people that were trying to do this.
It was a Persian physician and psychological thinker, Rhazes.
Yeah.
Rhazes?
R-H-A-Z-E-S.
Never heard of him or her. Okay, so Thomas Aquinas. Let's get to Thomas. What is Thomism? Since it's still a belief, and notice that the Augustinian theology is still current, right? Based on Plato's philosophy. I remember Plato thought there were two causes: the ideas and matter. The ideas, basically give us the impression this is a chair. It's really just in flux. The reason I think it's a chair is because I know the idea of chair, and I basically viewing that hodgepodge of matter as a chair, right, or a table, etc., etc. Aristotle said this is all bunkus, right? Instead, what we've got are four causes. The material cause, which is the matter that makes things up, which would be air, fire, water, earth, and ether's also fifth element, but that's holding the planets up. So everything here is a mixture of those other four elements, right? So everything has to have substance, but everything also has to have shape. You can't have a blob. Well, a blob is a blob. A blob has a shape. It's the shape of a blob. The famous line, I'm trying to get into shape. Well, round is a shape, so you're fine. It's a shape. And the efficient cause, which is how something got into the shape that it's in at the moment, right? All the causes, the physical causes. And the purpose, the teleological cause, right? So the teleological cause is what the thing is for, what its niche is in the great chain of being. Everything is in its place, and everything is organized in order to be doing what it does and what's to be there. That's kind of an odd part of Aristotelian thought, right? Well, the whole point of living, remember, for Aristotle and for the post-Aristotelians, is to think, well, why are we here? How can we have eudaimonia, or a flourishing life, as a human being that has a particular purpose. What's our purpose? Our purpose for Aristotle is we love to know, right? Kind of like Homo sapiens, right? So our greatest purpose is the more we know, the happier we can be, etc., right? But your soul is connected to the body for Aristotle. There's no such thing as a soul that's invisible apart from the body. For Plato, your soul is invisible, right? Remember the credo, God created the visible and the invisible, right? With Aristotle, that doesn't make sense. Everything has to have body, and including your soul. So your soul is the anima, the activity of the body, right? How it moves. Arguments over when a fetus is ensouled. You know, for them, it's when the fetus starts to kick. Whoa, it's been ensouled, it now moves on its own. And so, really, at one point, abortions were perfectly fine up until that point. But it was after that point that, well, now it's a soul and you can't kill it, right? So that was part of the argument. That kind of got changed as things went because science enabled us to look at the cells and earlier and earlier, and you realize, whoa, they're alive, they're moving now. So it's not just the overt kicking and the mom's, you know, oh, feel the kick, you know, kind of thing. That's kind of funny. Well, let's not go there. But you get the idea. It gets pushed back further and further and further because they're trying to figure out, well, when does life start? Whoa. And eventually, of course, as you know, the Catholic Church took the position that it's even wrong to frustrate the creation of the life in the first place, so you shouldn't be doing other things to not have children, right? Because the soul is there, right? But the trouble, of course, is it's the activity of the body. And so you have to merge Aristotle with Plato. Aristotle was just too good. In fact, they began referring to him as the philosopher. Albertus Magnus, the teacher of Thomas Aquinas, was an Aristotelian. Aquinas becomes an Aristotelian. And he's going to transform the dogma of the church, and we can go find it. In the Summa. The Summa is the summation of theology. There's also the Summa Contra Gentiles. So those are two major works of Aquinas. And as you go and look at this, this is a nice site because it's got all the parts. So you could go to the first part, and this is the definition of God, or the essence of God. All the questions you could have concerning God are answered in this section. The existence of God, for example. The Blessed Trinity, the creation, the angels. Oh, let's go look at the angels, because this is, I think, one of my quiz questions for you. Is there any entirely spiritual creature altogether incorporeal? It seems to be. I mean, if we go and look at this question, notice that we have two sides to this issue. We have objections. It would seem that an angel is not entirely incorporeal, for what is incorporeal only as regards ourselves and not in relation to God is not absolutely incorporeal. But Damascene says that an angel is said to be incorporeal and immaterial as regards us. But compared to God, it is corporeal and material. Therefore, he is not simply incorporeal. Objection 2. Further, nothing is moved except a body. As the philosopher, who's Aristotle, says in his Physics, but Damascene says that an angel is an ever-movable intellectual substance. Therefore, an angel is a corporeal substance. Further, Ambrose, who was the bishop that converted Augustine, says every creature is limited within its own nature. But to be limited belongs to bodies. Therefore, every creature is corporeal. Now, angels are God's creatures, as appears from Psalm 148. Praise ye the Lord, all his angels, and farther on, verse 4, for he spoke and they were made, he commanded and they were created. Therefore, angels are corporeal. On the contrary, it is said, Psalm 103, who makes his angels spirits. And now we get to his answer. I answer that there must be some incorporeal creatures. For what is principally intended by God in creatures is good, and this consists in assimilation of God himself. And the perfect assimilation of an effect to a cause is accomplished when the effect imitates the cause, etc., etc., etc. So, then he gives replies to each objection. Now, what's going on here? He is keeping the old dogma and updating it with the new. And as a result, he's doing, really, for the first time, well, at least that's so obvious, what I tried to suggest when we were talking about Galileo and the idea, you know, that the sun goes around the earth. It's true. I was watching it. It just goes around, right? It's also the case that the earth goes around the sun. It's true. If you step off of the earth, as you can if you rent one of those rockets and stuff, you can see it's going around the sun. By the way, it's also the case that all of the planets are kind of going like this along with the sun. And it's also the case that nothing is actually moving at all. It's all an illusion, right? It's also true that, well, et cetera, right? There are all these different models. These are all different, like, languages that each have their context wherein they are really useful. And it's great to have this tool. The only mistake you can make is thinking that reality, outside of all of our languages and our tools to understand reality, is one or the other of these tools. That's the mistake, right? So think about the richness of having all these different models, right? What Aquinas is doing is giving you context here and saying that in this context, it's right to speak this way. In this context, it's right to speak this way. Does it look like these contexts are in conflict with one another? Yeah, no problem. You isolate your thinking into each of the different contexts where it's appropriate. That's how you solve this dilemma, right? And we still use that today, by the way, I think. At least it's a good idea. Now, my question for you, let me see if I can do this here. I should hold this up. Oh, I could have done that. Why? So much security over this stuff. Could have just done that, and I wouldn't have had to go looking for any of the links, right? I've got it all right here. So we already did, is there a largest pizza in Eagle River? We already did that. But, and you you can play with that one if you like, but it's sort of like one of the test questions for test 2. No, I don't have the next one. I have this one embedded in here. How many star-crossed lovers do you know?
Star-crossed lovers, do I know?
Yeah. I guess this is it.